Hello and welcome to the Identity Podcast. I am Caleb, one of your co-hosts, along with my fellow and lovely co-host Tarik. Every single week we come here and we have just an exceptional time, right? Being able to discover an individual's identity, being able to talk about their journey, their paths, and amazing things when it comes to identity. So we're very, very grateful to be here every single week. Don't forget to watch us live every single Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, whether it's pre-recorded or a live episode. We're so grateful. And of course, check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch every Wednesday. And check out the Identity Podcast on all streaming platforms. Wherever you listen to podcasts, you can listen to us there 24/7, 365 days a year. And follow us on all social media platforms as well. Of course, if you love the Identity Podcast and want to sponsor us, well, guess what? You can. All you have to do is email us at press@findyourdnyc.com, and we'll get back to you with more details. Of course, this week's episode is going to be a great one, bringing history to life, featuring none other than Mark West Jr. Welcome, Mark. We're so grateful to have you.
Do you hear any feedback when you hear us talking? By the way,
there's a little bit of feedback on your end. Caleb is coming in a bit much clearer than you.
Okay.
But
sorry, guests and everyone, if you have any difficulties, we'll probably clean up the audio back then. But we'll welcome in the illustrious Mark West. He's providing us some time. He told us in the background that he did 34 hours worth of things. I mean, beyond COVID, beyond traveling. You're doing some phenomenal things. So, how do you manage all this time, man? And how are you even here with us right now and awake and just doing your thing? It's amazing.
Well, I manage all of it simply because I don't have a full-time job. I don't work for anyone. So a lot of people, when you work full-time job and you have your side hustle, you're cramming so much because you're giving some other person already so much of your energy. I have more of a lifestyle. So, when I wake up, I do what I want to do. I know I have to work hard, but I definitely, take a lot of times for breaks. And, if I may have a lot of stuff to do, but if I need to go to sleep, I'm going to sleep all day. If that's it, if I need to go to the gym, or if I don't need to work, then I'm going to do that.
Yeah, that's right on point. That sounds about right. Yeah,
I work.
I think.
Time.
No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, going ahead. We're here at the Identity Podcast. We like to make sure that everybody feels comfortable and talks about everything they feel. So, I know quite a bit about you, but I want to share the world. So, I mean, beyond travel, man, and just kind of everything that's been going on, what was the first time you felt like you were living in your own destiny? And I'm getting into the nitty-gritty early with you because I know your answers. So we'll give you. You want to do your background? We can do that too.
So I mean, my background, I guess, really will answer that question. Because there was a very clear moment where it was very, very clear. I graduated from college. I studied in China at NYU Shanghai, and I also studied at the University of Paris and the University of Ghana. And history was my main focus, art particularly. And I had the opportunity to go around and learn a lot of different cultures and a lot of different stories. So I didn't study art at all. I studied stories. So each of my paintings has a very significant story. So the technique, but history, so to go to
podcast. I'm Caleb.
In my heart, I feel like after college, I spent so much time being educated. I need what I learned for the 4 years traveling all over the world and seeing so many. If I just school, I didn't get a chance to use anything learned. I went to kind of like apply something I could make. That was kind of what intuition was. So a year came in of useless jobs. Even more than after about a year and a half, I more or less gave up about going to grad, and I had contacted friends in China, go to some random city and have fun, because China's a fun city. You make a lot of money. I was like, at least make some money, because you can stack cash in China faster than you can in New York City. I was just spending money. It was just like thousands of dollars each month. But in China, you can save thousands of dollars each month. So let me just go back to China real quick and do that. And right before I was gonna go, I got a finance job. And I'm pretty keen. And after being from job to job, maybe I need to end this finance job a little bit. So during that time, got my first room. Didn't even have a bed. I was staying with my aunt, but I finally got my own room. It was a big room, and it was it was really old so it had these nice moldings in it. And I thought I needed to put some art on the walls because it looked bland. It would look so nice if I have all this art on. So the first art I remember, just going to Dollar Tree and, getting the cheap stuff, and just because it was for myself. It wasn't because I wanted to sell this and I made all these paintings up around my room. They were done on like the big poster board paint. And would come and see it. They'd be like, wow, it looks like a gallery in here. It's like a gallery. And I was like, no. And they were like, you could do some of this work. So the week before I started my finance job, I needed some money. I needed to take some time for those finance checks to come in. These paintings just up on my walls, and I was walking past 14th Street, and I saw artists out there, and I said, can you just sell your work out here? And they were like, yeah, bring your art. You can sell it at the market. So the first weekend of my job, I brought out, maybe 5 or 6 of my paintings, and I sold 2 paintings, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. And I remember selling them for $100 each. And I was happy because that was going to be my pocket money to hold me until I got the big finance check. But that week, and this was the first week I started the finance job, that week I remember going home and buying so many canvases and just painting like a crazy person. And the next weekend I went out there with 14 paintings. And within the first 5 hours, I sold 9 of them. And I made thousands of dollars, like on the street. I felt like a drug dealer because I had all this darn money, on
the street.
I'm standing in the corner of 15th Street, and literally I watched my paintings fly away. And that was the confirmation that I never had to work for another person ever in my life. That let me know.
Round of applause, man. For sure.
Didn't really need, but I knew that was just a preview, and that wasn't going to happen every time. I already knew this, and I knew that I would have to work and I would have to put my hours in if I was going to be, half as good. I knew that what was going to keep me is just the pure hours, because you got to put time, and they say it's something that takes like 10,000 hours to be an expert in something. So I knew that every day I would need to paint, and I said, if I can make 5,000 each month from my art, I'm going to quit my finance job and open a gallery. And
bold. Drops mic, Mark West. You know, it's so funny. When I first met you, I've always known you as Mark West Gallery because that's what it was saved in my phone.
Oh,
So it's funny to hear the story before. So Caleb, one time I had met him. I think I met you in multiple occasions, but one time I was just like walking through New York, and it's back when those art events, you know, when they would have like those wine events. You remember those days, right?
yeah.
I don't know if you were curating at that point, but I think
Yeah,
it was like one of those days I met you.
You gotta come check out my gallery, and then you came.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's kind of funny. So that you had already been this gallery before you. Yeah, you're fine. I'm gonna keep talking. You had already been this gallery the whole time, man. Even in your room in that one moment, and I think for us to kind of get into touch of what we need, and it seems you trusted your internet the entire time, whether it was going to China, whether it was whatever. So I think that's really what type of piece you made that time.
The paper from Dollar Tree. You know,
Wow.
I didn't.
No, I mean, what was the content? Was it still historical or that content?
No, those they had so many different ranges, but one of the paintings was in blackface, and when I put that painting up, at least maybe like four or five of the experienced artists, they all more or less over me, and they was like, sell that one high, you know, and they more or less said that, you know, all your stuff is good, but that the blackface one hit different, you know, and that was just the feedback. And when I think that was my third or fourth week out there, who bought it, he was driving the street, and that let me know, okay, this has like the effect how people something to discussions that were being something that I could use. But even before I knew the real history behind it.
Interesting.
So I quit my job. That one was a small student. It was in a warehouse. It was like $900, but it was good enough. And I remember first show. I remember selling a few of my paintings, and the second exhibition, the second group show, there was maybe six that were sold that did this that came from the group show. So soon I was like, you know, wow, these artists are getting a chance to sell these paintings, you know, and people are buying this stuff, you know. So this is, you know, this worked. You know, I just need to fine tune this and you know, practice and just do a lot more work, you know, and time in order to get better. And in that space, we ended up getting out that space after 3 months. There was so much racism that I dealt with. I had to get out of there. And the landlord actually kicked me out and still owes me money. After calling, you know, me everything from nigga to black bitch to
Wow.
from Africa. He told people I was from Togo. Like, it was a whole bunch of
He must have had your DNA test. He should have given it to you. You know?
I even I had to even make him sign a contract that he wouldn't make racist or sexual comments. So, you know, it was extreme. When we left that space,
it's ironic that just, you know, sorry to backpedal a little bit, but just all the things that you're kind of already fostering. First of all, community. Just think about the world that you were in before, the finance, the capitalistic. There was a lot of stuff going on with that. You're like, I don't want to do that now. Switched over to artists, and now you found a community that can make artwork better than you could. And now you're fostering that community for someone else. So I think that's definitely a big thing that you're on. You're like, you see a flaw, you're like, okay, let's move on. Because even this racist thing, I mean, people could let that destroy them. You were down for how long? Not even that long.
That was when I came to the Bronx space, and like there, you know, my team at that time, they were like, "You're the person, you know, they're not going to get away with this, you know, blah blah blah." This, and I said, "No, we're not going to do any of that. We're just going to focus on opening up the gallery as soon as possible because we was doing this, and just focusing on getting our billion, you know, because you can't focus on trying to squash roaches if you're trying to get something bigger, you know. You just can't.
You had already
your times. You just got to let roaches be roaches and didn't wait if you see it, you know.
Yeah.
But I just decided to stay focused. And
yeah, every minor obstacle, man, along your journey, and I just love how you're able to mitigate this well. Whereas times just being out there, you were able to see like streamlines. Because I've regardless of whatever it is. Whatever, you know, it could be in their own small towns, but everyone has a discipline than they have in America. That's what I've heard personally.
One thing I can say from, you know, living there, Chinese people, the people, they care so much about their, you know, their family and community and when they're way and help, they will actually go out their way and help you. And sometimes, like, people like I've had people do things for me that really about people that hardworking and
something off the efficient stuff everywhere.
Yeah, things happen really fast over there, and someone that, so it's and they say in Shanghai, you position, job, lifestyle you want to live as possible. And even to like the extreme things that could happen like really fast that would take longer in New York. You know, like Shanghai has so many in motion that when you have to start a business, for like, I can't tomorrow.
You're so right. It's so right. I don't know. It's like that. So go ahead and do a gallery. It's kind of all from you're going to see your fellow very strong person. You know, you were able to balance both fields. I don't know if it was the reason why you left. I asked if like competitive.
Wait, why? Oh yeah. I mean, honestly, I had a great company and I had a great boss, excellent mentor. And the people who worked at my firm, they had worked there for 20, 30, even worked there for 60 years. They, it was working to work so long because they made it comfortable and they took care of them. So, when I got them and I looked at now, I don't want that. And this is not because I blow them to stay in, room just for me. It kind of felt like I was selling myself short. And
that's beautiful to know your value, man. You in the show as well. I appreciate you.
And I also like sneaking in and doing art every I could. Like it was so extreme to where like my coworker was like, you have to like the drawings because my boss was always looking. Why is my drawing? I have to hide it. And I remember I would sketches later during the job. I would just go to that firm and like stand with on the privates just because of art. And then for me, I was in this job. I still gotta, do even so it was and so my boss being so happy and an opening and but it was a matter of time left to go and pursue to leave. Go and he was saying his boss was betting on when I was a kid.
Oh my gosh. Like, that's a good bet. I mean, they knew how ambitious you should have invested. Give me the money. Whoever wins. So now we're at the Bronx.
This was 2019 to 20. I was in the Bronx. It was
right there.
It was a short time when I was in the Bronx. Do a lot of good things for the community while I was there. During that time, I was about one active galleries in my girl. So, if you're one of the arts, you're gonna get a lot of support, and there was so much the Bronx community that really helped it go. And I knew that the Bronx, I kind of felt this like when I went from Bronx space to the newer space in Bushwick that, it was hard to justify how much that we were to the community. Because when you're where there are so many art organizations, you're not adding much when you're with how much are you adding? What are you doing? The block that we worked on in the South Bronx at one time, Ryder Avenue and whores and drug deal, and even still when I was there, there were methadone clinics at each end. So at either end, you could find needles, up and down the streets. It was still the South Bronx, but yet they had so much gentrification on that block. They had a gym that was almost $300 a month, So, and they had built new art studios that are crazy expensive and so it's like they're still doing these things to improve it. And I was kind of like right in the mix of it. So, I felt like there because the community had benefit, versus is when I was space. I don't really think that I made that big to Bushwick. First, I don't really think I was able to really penetrate that like I was in South Bronx. Shooting in South Bronx, I was, when they were coming to my gallery, we were holding town hall meetings and doing a lot of community things that were necessary, that just weren't there. And Bushwick had any of these things. But the traffic so much more in Bushwick. The amount of people that wanted to work with us because we were in that strategic location off that was crazy. It was no, so I'm out of that space, out that space.
Okay. No.
Yeah, that space. Already knew that it wouldn't last that space because we were and because and the community of moving all this and they did nothing but try to my as soon as I get there and um to me, so by the 7th month, that's when they actually kicked us out. And
Month of 2020. This is still a pandemic, right?
of 2021.
This is this year.
Yeah, this happened in March.
Okay.
And I decided, during that time, I was already looking for other spaces. And before they even kicked me out, I found a storefront. I found a storefront down the street. It was cheaper and it was nicer. And I could have my own storefront, and not have to walk through any galleries. But when I was in that space and I was going to get it, I said, you know what? I've had a few different galleries. This time I want to do it different. When I open up my new space, I want to get grant money to do this, to pay for this because I'm doing a lot for the community. And I'm finding from my colleagues that it's that much possible, so that I could, if I had to think in a much larger space and really, do a good service. And I wanted to open up the museum. So, in the space of opening that, I've been, doing so much work behind the scenes, completely shifted my, it's completely different now. Now it's just application after application, grants, meeting with, developers, constantly pitching proposals, constantly submitting different budgets and forms, and, really trying to do it so that I could get that, really nice things, and really be able
Congrats, man.
to do some really good things.
It's almost like you came full circle. It's like you were like the finance guy who became an artist, became a dope artist. Now you're like, oh my God, people need my help. I have to go back to being finance guy. But underwriting is the way to go. I've actually had this conversation with a couple of my friends that create art and do so much for the community, but don't know we have access to such resources. I'm not saying those application processes aren't easy or that we aren't discriminated against, to be honest, but there's so much here. And that's what I wanted to tie into. For your love of history and kind of what you've been moving forward with your future, what made you so interested in saving or helping the community, or specific communities that you already helped? Diaspora, artists, LGBTQ, all this history.
I started to realize that, with my business, that it's possible for me to benefit and other people to benefit too. And that other people benefiting doesn't take away from me, and learning that if I, having at least the mindset that if I use my blessing, to help other people, God will make that blessing bigger. And watching that blessing grow and grow and grow, and understanding that, with the new level, is more responsibility, and that anything that I have to do, I have to give back. And that's always kind of been a core, trying to keep my intentions very, very pure. Because when I started out, and I would go around and try to get mentorship, and I couldn't get it, even though I had my confirmation. I done sold enough paintings just from like the second weekend out there that you couldn't tell me nothing at that time. I knew that I had to work, and I knew that would separate me, and actually make it a reality. But I already knew that that was a preview of what the future could be,
Wow.
So.
So you would kind of say that to some of our viewers out there, because like I always tell some of our guests, that some of the entrepreneurs, I mean, you deal with these people on a daily basis. I've been to your shows, and I know some of these artists closely too. And what you provide to them is such a wonderful space. So just as your words of encouragement and stuff, what do you advise them along their journey through these obstacles, like different things like that? Is it just remaining focused? Is it trust your gut? Is it kind of like not see it, like see the vision and then kind of make sure it happens? Because every time I talk to you, talk like this. It's like the fact that you have a whole new place, to me, it's like I see your emotional fortitude in such deep ways. You know what I mean? As a business person, as a strength for the community, as a pillar, like there's obvious reasons why politicians are reaching out to you, because you have a heart like that, but you're doing it in ways that may seem more tangible. So I appreciate that. Also, what pieces is behind you? Well, I don't know if anybody can see this, but you guys can take a look at his Instagram.
This one is called Kingdom of Kush, and I'm still working on it. I gotta add a little bit more to it, but it's a scene from this Kushite scene that you can find at the Met, of these women that are giving an offering to God. So they're balancing things on their heads, and they're actually, this is kind of like service. And the person behind them has a plate with this small pot, probably filled with perfumes, and these balls of gold that he's going to be giving an offering. So, and when it's finished, the people will be covered in, all of these. The women are going to be covered in jewelry, from their hair to their arms to their whole outfit, and that's just to show the abundance. And that even though they're covered in gold, they're still giving back. And this was still, a very clear message in the ancient Kush and ancient Egyptian art. That the idea of service, and for something, more than yourself. And but to answer your question, what I will say is that Hmm. When I say, well, I mean, to painters, I have a certain message. To painters, I say that, if you, want to be successful, one, people at a minimum, people need to know that you did the painting without having to read your signature. You need to be giving a painting that is unique to where I don't have to see who did it, in order, to determine that. When I see great paintings, I always can tell who did it without having to go up close. It's just a basic rule. If you're all over the place and doing a million different things, you're not going to be there. You gotta you have the ability to choose what you want to paint. So you still have the freedom, but you have to make a decision, and you have to be focused, because it's kind of like if you're running around, you won't go far, but if you have a target and you run to that target, you will go really, really far. If you say this is where I want to go. So I would say to choose a mark and run to that mark and see how far you go, versus doing a million different things and going in circles. Two, to these artists out there, a lot of times they come to me and they want to work with me and they have some talent. And this can be, musicians or, painters or poets, and they want to collab, or they want to, me to show their work. And yes, they may have talent, but that doesn't mean I may want to necessarily invest in them. There are other things that I look other than talent. You know, I'm someone who sees so many talented people. I believe talent is so common, and God literally spread His talent on every person. To where no one person can have it all. There will always be someone that can paint better than me and paint in ways that I would never think. Because it's impossible for me to have it all. So if you come in here and you think that you're talented, and you expect something just because of that, it's almost, one is a little bit of ignorance, because you drastically you don't have a clear picture of the art scene that's already out there and how talented people already are. you know and two, it's a little bit of ego. What I like to see is passion is kind of like, it's like you're working hard, but you're doing things that are necessary to guarantee your success. A lot of times people can work hard and make that painting, blah blah blah, and post a picture on Instagram. But I'm the person that, many times when I would be out there, I would do the most. I would do more than any other artist. I'm just gonna be honest. If it means standing out there just that bit longer, you know what I mean? Or bringing that many more paintings, or talking to that many more people. Being that much more energetic, putting that much more energy to it. Spending that much more time on the painting longer than any other artist is going to paint. On a mural, like we were saying with the mural. How I've spent so much time on that. I'm going to do those things because I need to guarantee my success. I know that if I do it all, I'll get it back. And I'm not necessarily expecting a check, but I will get it back. For all that energy I'm gonna get blessed for all of that. So what I say is that if you aren't losing sleep, you can't expect. If you want the glory, then you got to go through the battle. And I want the glory. I want to get that coin, so I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to lose sleep. I'm willing to lose more sleep than you. Or work harder than you. To do this, because I just want that much more. And I think it's really about pushing yourself, but in a direction, and just going just above and beyond. That's what people say, giving 110%. If you give 110%, which is very rare when I see artists, they can give 85% and be so confident, but I'm talking about 110%, where it's like you did the absolute most. That is the person that I want to invest in them, because they're already probably going to be selling paintings. If you're putting in 110%, you're already probably selling paintings. And my job is not to help you sell your first paintings, but to help you sell them for more money. because there's already a market for you. You know, people want to come to me, artists want to come to me and never sell a painting and think that by hanging it on my wall, they're going to automatically sell painting. No, you have to know the market. You know, you have to be like, first off, is there any interest in your art form? You know, if you're doing something good and you share that shit, you will get confirmation if there's interest. But if ain't nobody biting on it, leave it. Leave it. You have to be, you have to be able to give your own self. You have to be critical of yourself and give yourself this feedback. You know, when I would put certain paintings out, I noticed that some paintings got more attention and other paintings didn't. You know, and I paid attention to all those people, and I was as serious as a heart attack, analyzing every person that came by because I wanted to understand this. You know, and I wanted to understand how people were going to interact with my paintings. So I looked at who were the types of people buying my paintings, what neighborhoods were they going to, you know, what are the average ages of the people. You know, most is probably middle-aged, you know, late 20s, 30s, and 40s entrepreneur Black people that buy my work. You know, I'm going to a certain demographic, and a lot of my paintings they end up in brownstones. You know, so I have a sort of idea of like where I want my paintings to go, where they are going, and having doing the research, you know, trying to see what type of work would look good in that type of space of my ideal client, you know. But if you've never sold anything, if you put your work out and no one has ever given you any genuine interest, then I think that we have to be realistic. You know, I can't sing. You know, I don't sound like Beyonce, but if I could, I would invest in myself. And I guarantee you, Beyonce got confirmation at a young age, you know, that she was talented. You know, this is something that, like, if it's really your purpose, you're gonna be that way since birth. And that's another thing about a master painter. This is another tip about if you're a real master painter. If you're a real master painter, your earliest is just as good as your latest work. When you look at Picasso's early work when he was a child, like Picasso's father was a painter, and when he saw his son's work, when he was a little boy, he said, "I can't teach my son anything because at this age, as an art teacher, he's already surpassed what I could teach him," and that's what he said about his son. You know, so if it's really in you, you should have some inclination at a young age. That's something that if you ask yourself, okay, what would you do if you had $1 billion? You know, I'm going to do art all day. That's the easy answer. You know,
yeah.
So
have you always known that answer though?
It's the one. I mean, I know that I have to do something with myself, and if I don't have to work, then I'd rather make pretty pants.
No, I'm saying, when did you find your purpose? It wasn't that young, right? Because I know there are some prodigies out there, like, you know, the other Virgos, Michael Jackson and stuff. Caleb, I'm joking.
I think throughout college, I've got hints and glimpses. You know, sometimes you don't get the full picture, but you'll get a glimpse. And you'll get certain confirmations that, you know, I don't really know where I'm going, but I know that I'm on the right path. You know, and just trying to pay attention. I'm someone that's been very, very fortunate. And I acknowledge that, you know, just being safe, you know, and having seen so much and being a cancer survivor, you know, these sort of, you know, things that I don't, you know, take any.
You could share that part. I mean, that part is probably like the biggest crazy part. You know, people just probably think that you just have all this positivity. You've outlined all the logic of the negative stuff that could have happened: the racism, the travel, being in bad environments, being around the wrong people, spending money in the wrong places. But you have all these experiences now that you can share with others, and you know more about yourself. So I didn't know I was going to be doing this podcasting thing until about last year. We're almost about to make a full year. And I've known you for a while, and it's like everything is coming into alignment. So you're exactly right. Some things have been with us for years. Like people have said my voice is amazing for a long time. So, you know, they want to just hear me talk about stuff all day. So
here's the also thing though, at any time you can also step into your purpose. You know, if this is your purpose, that is like your legitimate purpose from God, not what you think, not what you want to do. because there may be things that you want to do. Like me, I wanted to be a finance executive making all this money. That was what I wanted to do, and
Still kind of happening.
but but I think that if this is really what you're supposed to do at any moment you decide to go into it, is the right time. Anything else you're doing is probably, a deterrent, from what you're really supposed to do. But, if you, decide to buckle down and be like, okay, today is the day that I'm gonna, like when you think about Basquiat, right? Basquiat, he he refused to work when because he knew he was going to be a painter. He wouldn't even serve people, and he was going around, sleeping on people's couches because he didn't have any money, because he knew that he was going to eventually make that money from his art, and he could not spend his time working at McDonald's. He would rather be sleeping and homeless. And again, this is the passion. This is the guaranteeing your success. This is the 110%. This is the doing what no one else is willing to do. So that he could be fully immersed in what his purpose was. He had to give up the security of all those other jobs, the security of a bedroom. Believe me, he was smart enough to have a bedroom, but he gave that up, because he knew that he held, so much in his hands. So that's the part I'm talking about, the passion. And that's more than talent. That's the type of person that I want to invest in, because this is what the role model looks like. Are you doing the extra things that other people aren't doing, or are you doing the average, doing the average stuff? If you're doing the average stuff, even if your work is good, I don't think you're really going to have any longevity, and I don't think your work is going to be resold. It might be sold one time. That's called primary. I think it's primary market and then secondary market. Secondary market is when the painting has a life and it journeys from house to house. I don't think the painting will be secondary market if you don't have that passion, and if you aren't really doing the extra stuff. And also, there's so many. I hate to say this and hate how this sounds, but there's like so much like people painting bullshit art. You're gonna take so much time and make a painting, paint something significant, paint something important, paint something that's going to give us a glimpse of your culture or give some greater understanding. Make the piece say something. Don't just make something that looks pretty. And this is especially true for Black artists, because we have greater competition. We can't just make splatter art. We don't have that privilege. Our stuff actually, Basquiat had to paint the struggles of New York City and paint them in so many, grotesque ways and scream his experience on the canvas in order to be even in the room, to be allowed in the room. That's what we have to do. So it's a little bit harder for us. We can't just paint bullshit. We actually got to dig deep and paint something that's personal to us, but it's also has taste to a market, and that requires some sort of reflection, So, we really have to really think, okay, how is this painting necessary? Does this painting need to exist? Am I filling a gap? Am I filling a gap? There's two styles of leadership, and this applies to painting. One where artists say, okay, I have the grand idea and I'm going to make something super, super cool. And it's going to, they go ultra creative and that they could do that, and they have a grand idea. Or they could look and see, okay, what needs to be painted? What am I not seeing in the museums? What could I contribute that's different? How could I give something that's fresh? This is the sort of the extra step that's more than talent. This is brain. I need
facts, man.
about how can any piece that that you make should be museum quality. Something at a level to where each painting is an expression that you want to share for the world, to where anyone from any background, should feel something from that. I when I look at my paintings and I have the intention, I'm intending on these being around 1,000 years. So I don't want to paint bullshit. That's why I'm going to take the time and do this with all of these, because I'm not just thinking about selling it one time to one collector. I want my paintings to have a hit, to travel, to bounce, to move, to go from some homes to homes, to be resold and sold.
Exactly. Just even like this piece behind you, like I'm really in awe about. It's a classic piece, and it's a classic interpretation of the piece as well. So I find that very interesting. I mean, you think about it; those hieroglyphics didn't take time. I mean, didn't take just a minute of time. It took some actual significant work, and sometimes generations and dynasties of time to get the right thing correct. So it's very funny to see. Some paintings have a half-life, like you said. It can be trending, splatter, or things like that. You talked about a lot of different things, and I think sometimes I've actually heard in the art world where it's kind of envied, because I have a good friend, well, not a good friend of mine, but a friend of mine that I've been watching, and I've seen his artwork can kind of be very cartoony and like cool, but people love his work. But that's his experience. He comes from a very like comfortable space in life, and he has this like cartoon type, cookie cutter vibe. Whereas what we have is unfortunately the struggle. It's like the same way like some people feel like some Caucasian artists can't rap because they don't come from a struggle or whatever. So I do think coming from a place of pain, no matter where it is, no matter what race or creed, is where the story begins and your story begins. And to kind of summation of kind of what you were saying too about history and bringing this history to life, you find your own history, you make that its thing. You speak a lot about market research. That's something that I've heard a lot about. I think that's very helpful, to be aware of your surroundings. And that keeps me in a position to believe that identity is almost a bit of a call and response. You know where you are in your environment, and you respond accordingly with who you are.
Learning how to operate in that environment, learning how you can, what tools you have that other people don't have that benefit you. What are you extra skilled at? What are your weaknesses? And how you can operate that. That's all about it. That's all about identity.
Yeah, I agree. And I love these type of artists that you brought up, the Basquiat's versus an Andy Warhol or something like that. I mean, who cares about the comparison as far as artistic, but they had very different intentions when it came to the art world, completely, almost a polar opposite. And I have seen some artists that are definitely involved in their art. Like you said, it's talent. And I still feel like they can be 1,000% talented, but that whole 85 to 110, where they're lacking the ability to be social, they're lacking the ability to get out their own gallery. Like imagine if a lot of artists have stayed at the space of where you were, where you just had a bunch of art in your room, never gone outside, never could socialize, never value themselves. So the way you were jumping through those steps, I just want to like commend you, because a lot of people don't have that fortitude like you do. Because each one of those steps were milestones for tons of artists, to the point of now that you're opening up the door for others. Yeah, see, Caleb, did you have a comment too, Caleb?
I mean, I completely agree with you, Tarik, and what you are saying is what I was going to say as well. And I think one of the things I guess to go back to briefly that you mentioned along that long list that you just kind of talked about, Mark, is you kind of talked about finding your own mark, right? And I really resonated with that, and I also thought it was really important that you mentioned that as well. I thought with kind of having artists, being painters, just being an artist and finding your own mark, finding that thing that really makes you stand out, it makes you unique, is super important. And so I'm kind of curious, where in your career, where in your life did you realize, like, hey, this is my mark, this is what makes me stand out, this is what I need to really take? Because we've learned your journey and everything, we've learned the process and where you've been able to go and come from and where you are today. But where was the defining moment for you that was just like, this is what I need to take to make me go to the next level?
I had this one, I started painting, first off with the blackface, I paint a lot with blackface, and that might not even be the right term for it. When I first started painting it, I knew about the menstrual age and everything, and I didn't specifically know what about blackface and where it actually came from. But as a historian, is a general understanding that what most people believe is the history is not the real history. That's just kind of a general. You have to actually do a little bit of research, and open up a couple books if you want to find the truth about it. But mainstream's understanding about things, a lot of times aren't the case. And when I painted it, I felt that these images were a lot more powerful, and that I just felt like they were more than the Aunt Jemimas and the Jigaboos, and that I had saw from that, and I knew that they could be used for discussions. And I painted this one painting. This is so during that time when I did the research, I learned that blackfaces actually existed 2,000-3,000 years before Christ, and that it's extremely old, and that comes from Africa, and that I was able to find blackface from Ghana, blackface from Kenya, blackface from ancient Kush and in ancient Egypt, blackface from so many different countries. And in the Yoruba culture, the Orishas, if you go into the botanicas all over Latin America and also in New York City, you'll see, like Oshun or Shango, and they'll have these blackface sculptures with the hands out, and you put offerings in them, and the interface, but they were depicting gods and deities. So when we painted this, we use this for the highest purpose. What's higher than a god? If you're painting blackface Oshun and you're worshiping, you're giving off. What's higher than that? And that when white people did it, it was completely different. It's like they literally took our history and flipped it upside down to where we associate blackness with the worst thing. And versus in Africa, that was, when I see the blackness in the pure black skin, I see the absence of slave blood. This is a purely black people, 100% from the continent of Africa. So it's something reserved for African people, not something that we can't share with no one else. When the person is jet black, they're not sharing this with any other person. This is for Africa, so I just find so much.
So true, so true.
My people, when I paint them, for the majority of them, they're not light skinned, they're not high yellow, they're not mixed. These are jet black people, and it's a statement. I want them to know that these are black people on the canvas,
right.
Undeniably.
Do you think that's kind of what got this guy to jump out the car to pick up that first painting? He's like, I've never seen someone paint this dark with such beauty. I've seen some like the Black Madonna and like really big stuff like that, but nothing to that extent where even if you
for some people it's the first time they're seeing it, and I'm teaching them a lesson for the first time. For other people, they already know that this comes from Africa, and there are probably maybe like 15 other mainstream living black artists that are also painting with blackface, and also Basquiat painted with blackface. Black artists were painting with blackface since the 70s. So this is something that was already known amongst black artists in the art world, that we had the right to use these images, because it's like where there's this much racist history, there's this much African history. It's just so much more African history and so much more.
It's like an ocean. I mean, even if you look at like I keep bringing back this painting, this is acts of service. Dark-skinned people in acts of service to God. Who else are they talking to? So I get it.
So that's when I was like, okay, this is actually, and I felt this. This was my intuition. I felt that it was more than, I was doing more than just a mix of the racist, jigaboos, that it was more than that, and then I actually learned that it actually was. And that was purely just my intuition, purely my heart, telling me that I should paint this way, just seeing how people reacted to it. And I had this big painting, and I remember that these two black people, they were yelling at each other at the top of their lungs because they had different interpretations about my painting. And I was at 14th Street, and they were so loud, and there were this huge crowd standing around my art. And, I just was kind of in the background, and I was just happy because I was like, wow, this is something that I learned is a sign of a masterpiece. If your painting can create a buzz in a street, it could be a masterpiece. That's kind of a rule too. If you put the painting out and it can't making it. It's not creating a buzz. There's no longevity with the buzz around the painting. There has to be some longevity of a buzz. Then it's a sign. And I knew that I might have struck something good if I could get people yelling in the street that don't even know each other about the passion, about the painting, and show so much passion about
the passion, right? Exactly, it's about the passion.
I knew in one of the other artists came to me and he was like, I've been here painting out here for 20 years and I've never seen as many people stop and constantly ask you about your art. In the 20 years that I've been out here, I've never seen anyone do this. And I knew that people kept stopping and asking about the Black people, that I was painting and about the stories. And, I was already doing the work of an exhibition in the truest form of an exhibition. Most modern artists don't even know what an exhibition is. They think it's just,
put them on.
They think it's just showing up in some gallery and they think that's the dream. And that's not how it was. I learned this in France, in Paris. I went around to the old art markets. All those old master painters, when an exhibition is actually sharing your work in a public market. So the idea is not to be in a room. It's to take your masterpiece out where people are buying their fruits and vegetables and seeing it. Picasso did exhibitions under highways and would line his paintings up. So it's like when you talk about like the real painters, like the real master painters in their exhibitions, it's not about being in a gallery. It's about putting your work out for the public to see, and it's about sharing it with the world. Most people don't think they'll make that kind of money on the street sharing it with the world. So they think if I get in the gallery, I can make the money that way. And this is just naive. And it's also the intention behind it is also the money. They're not doing it to try to help the world with their art. And I do it because I want kids to see my art. I want little Black kids to see Black Jesus painted the way I paint them, or to see these Black history stories that I paint. I paint a lot of Bible scenes. I want them to see this because I didn't see it growing up, and I don't care if they don't buy it. And in my gallery, what's made us different is, whereas every other gallery, in New York City, the owner is thinking, okay, I had the show. How many people walked out with paintings? How many paintings did I sell at the end of the show? My thing is that not everybody can come in the show and spend $4,000 or $5,000 on a painting, but doesn't mean they can't leave empty-handed. If I could influence them, if they can still leave with something, they will keep coming back and eventually give me some money. But if I keep giving them something, to where they're leaving with something, not everybody has money to walk out with that expensive painting on the wall. Doesn't mean they can't enjoy the space. Doesn't mean they can't make connections, and doesn't mean they can't doesn't mean they can't learn different perspectives, learn different aspects discover some part of themselves, through art or through the music, or the performance art that we see. It doesn't mean they can't get something, just because they don't have pain. And that's kind of been something, giving people stuff. Because I've been given a lot.
So did you finish the story of where you ended up at? Like, where are you now? Are you still underwriting, or do you have a gallery?
So right now, I'm focusing on getting the funding for the museum.
Okay.
And I've actually been enjoying my little break, doing a lot of travel.
I know.
But also business.
You're a working man, bro. This is the first time I've seen him relax, Caleb. That's why it's funny to see him on our show. So we appreciate you definitely coming.
I'm still working like crazy. It's a full-time job trying to open up a museum. It's easy.
Imagine. Do you have a fund or something that we can share and be supported, bro? I'm sorry, I know it's a large crowded noise. I said, do you have a fund or some sort of? Well, also tell us more about you opening up your actual cultural arts and how is that working? Yeah.
What am I doing right now? I'm working on building the components of it. Because what I'm building, I want it to be, for the next 10, 20 years. I'm trying to make a staple of New York City. It's not going to be just a storefront with the sign that says museum on it. I want the full people with the black clothing standing next to the painting, guarding the Basquiat and the other pieces of art, like a real museum. A 10-20,000 square foot space. Something proper, not a regular gallery. So that's something that is cost anywhere from 300 to 500, close to $1 million a year. And I'm trying to come in with my 3-year budget, 3 to 5 year budget. So that I can have every single thing that I need to run it properly, because with Black businesses, we have a habit of opening up and surviving by any means necessary. We do that all the time. And I did that. However, I don't have to do that. I'm going to try something different. I'm only 26 years old. So I've opened up all those darn spaces. It's not that hard to open up a space. That's actually easy. I'm trying to do the thing that's difficult, and that takes
It'll take the most time. I always tell people, start off with the hardest task first, and work your way down for sure.
Now I'm working on building up a residency program. I'm actually going to Brazil tomorrow to view some parties. I'm going to tomorrow. And I like the residency program. We're gonna have a residency program so artists can come stay at my beach house in Rio de Janeiro, and work on their art and talk about art theory with me, and really dive into the local culture. That'll be for all different types of artists. It'll be very, very selective, and it's going to be a free program. But it's going to be a small, and will not be a lot of people that will get into that program. But we'll also have other artist retreats and programs and different things that we're going to do at that space. And it's going to be an extension of the museum. And even that takes time. People ask me all the time, when are you going to open it? When you open it? It takes time. I got to build a whole terrace and do get that place fixed up, and while also try to open up something here, because when I want to open up my museum, I want it to be very, very organized, so it might take me a year or two to do it right, because if you're trying to build MoMA, that's not going to come up you can't build MoMA in 3 months. You can't do it.
Rome, the artwork from Rome wasn't built in a day.
I'm not, saying it's going to be as big as MoMA, but if you're trying to do something like
that, man,
it takes time.
It took a long time coming. You're familiar with it, right? What's the name of it?
Which one? Which MoMA?
It wasn't a MoMA. It's like a African American museum. It took a long time for them to establish it. It's very big. Like, you don't really even hear about it. I think it had to be about 3-4 years ago, but it took a while, man. A lot of funding, a lot of time, but it happened. So it's possible.
And also thinking about job creation, for the museum, that's probably going to be needless staff of maybe 15 to 20 people to run this. I'm not getting that money overnight, and I'm not using my money to do that. I'm sorry, nope. I'm getting grant money to do that. We're going to do it the right way. We're going to do it we're going to do it the right way. That's important. So that the business can last and really be, something that, can be a part of New York City, something that can't be as easily knocked down.
Well, I mean, since we talked a little bit about the dirt of the art world in New York, I actually read an article earlier that talked about some things that had happened with the Whitney. Not to throw any gossip, because we normally don't do that, but it's kind of along the same lines of what you were talking about. So during the pandemic, they had done some sort of raise of art. So they did like a fundraising type of event. And all of that art was supposed to be sold and given out to an organization. All that art got stuck at the gallery, and they used that money to support the gallery, not the original arts foundation that it was doing. So they got into a lot of hot water with it. Everything got resolved. The money got, resolved and everything. But it just showed me it's like we have to have a place where we feel safe, right? And I think the Whitney's a relatively new museum, and I don't know why they're operating the way they would do it in that particular situation. But I think that the biggest thing that has come from the pandemic is that if we don't bond together, I mean, you've been doing this before the pandemic, but if we don't bond together with actual litigation, accounting, everything, we can't just be all ball players and artists and everything. It has to be a group dynamic. So if there's ever any, like, do you have like other supportive jobs or like people to help you with your career as well? Is that like something you offer on your website besides the residencies?
Well, when we had our space, we had many different streams of income. We had people that were booking the space from photo shoots to documentaries to having book launches. We sold artwork. We had ticket sales from different, doing lots of different plays or concerts and stuff like that. We got donations, people that would just donate money, and what else did we do? When I had this space open, there was a lot of different ways that we were making money in that space. That's also why the business is I'm still able to keep pushing it forward, because of having that sort of security, of doing a lot of different things. Right. Oh, we also got grant money too. I got quite a few grants during that pandemic. And a lot of this was, for, again, doing stuff for the community. But a small portion of it would, we would be able to keep towards our organization. So there are a lot of different, ways that, we can keep the business afloat. For the museum, probably going to get a large portion of our income from just general admissions, and museum membership, and through like corporate events that we'll have and stuff like that. We also will have different art programs at the location that we're going to have in Rio. So that'll be some things that we're going to be doing there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I literally, you answered a better question than what I asked. That's what I was going to say. Because my real question was, if somebody was interested in working with you, because you just said 5,000 phenomenal projects, and I'm sure that someone would just be interested just to intern and shadow you, how could they reach out to you? That was all. But I'm glad you just told me about the rundown, because that sounds eventful. I think I might take you up on this Brazil thing.
Yeah,
Caleb, I'm going to need one of those shirts, man.
Yeah, that's going to be a really cool program. We're going to have multiple different programs that are going to be here, and it's going to be, really trying to extend the community that we've been creating here, and just giving us, again, just doing a little bit more. That providing a different opportunity to help really shift some perspectives, so that we can really make some good art. And that's something that I'd look forward to. It'll be a good program.
I think so too. Well, I'm so glad you shared this time with us, man. I know you've been up. Thanks for hailing from Atlanta and all this other stuff, and just all the phenomenal things you do. Again, we're all the same age, but you sound like a 50-year-old man who's been trying to build this museum for years, and that's a good thing. So your wisdom is definitely appreciated. You got a great? I got hair.
Great hairs now. Actually, I need to take some breaks.
So a very young old man. How about that? Like a Benjamin Button type of guy. No, I'm joking. Don't worry about that. But yeah, go ahead.
I just share. Next month, we're gonna have a month-long exhibition at the Plaxel Gallery. We're based in Long Island City Court Square, and it's going to be a bunch of different artists from around the city. So check that out. I'm going to post that. If anyone is on Instagram, please follow me on Instagram. And if anyone, one word that most people do, They can just use at House of Mark West or cash symbol House of Mark West, or go on our website or reach out to us directly. We got a couple ways to do it. And also, if you want to be a part of some of the things that we're doing right now, I'm kind of busy doing a lot of administrative tasks, but we are still doing shows every couple of months to keep opportunities up. So I'll be posting them on the website, and people can sign up for our email blast at markwestmuseum.org. So yeah, that's the old website. But if you go to that website, it will direct you to the new website. So I have both them websites.
Always growing over here, man.
So yeah, you can go to housemarkwest.com too.
So he's also doing some live art. You get a chance to meet him while he's doing some pieces, and I think that'd be great. While you got check him out.
Hey, Ask, I heard that you are a Virgo?
No, I'm an Aries.
Aries.
Aries Taurus cusp, but
Nice.
but I'm an Aries, and then my
Okay.
Beyonce. They're just like
it doesn't start when you turn 18. It's all middle school. It starts when you're a child. It's your whole life.
you're working forever.
Anyway, lovely chatting with you guys. Thank you so much for giving me this space again to talk.
For sure. I think Caleb's gonna close this out.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you again, Mark. We really do appreciate it. And thanks for letting us discover your identity and getting to know more about you and what you're trying to do in this world. It is it's absolutely amazing. And thank you for always listening and watching the Identity Podcast. Everyone out there, we greatly appreciate you and cannot wait to continue to put out more content for you. So of course, don't forget to stay tuned every single Wednesday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern time as we put out new content, and every Thursday as we put out the new audio content of the show. You can check us out on all streaming platforms, and you can watch the show on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, all at the Identity Podcast. Of course, follow us on all social media platforms as well, including TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you love the Identity Podcast and want to sponsor us, well, guess what? You can. All you have to do is email us at press@findyourdnyc.com, and we'll get back to you with more details. Of course, check out our link tree, which can be found on all of our social media bios. There you can check out our Discord page and join us and chat with us. And you can go ahead and subscribe to our Patreon page at the Identity Podcast, and you can be a patron to our Patreon page. Pretty cool stuff. Don't forget to check out next week's show as we turn to episode 51, July 28th, featuring Dawn Maloney, our final episode of July. And then it's the big month, our 1-year anniversary in August. It's crazy.
Crazy.
Wow.
We made it. That's what I said the first time, right? No, we actually
Absolutely
made it.
crazy.
Full year, man. Full year.
We made it without missing a week. Ugh.
Not 1 week. 52, right? That'll be the 52nd episode.
Yeah. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tired too. It's a long day.
All right, everybody. You guys know where to tune in, right? No, I'm joking.
Yeah. You know where to tune in. Well, thanks as always for tuning in every single week. We'll catch you next week. Have a good one.